States of America. Unity and oneness is what we're made of. One nation under God, it's plain to see. We're showing the whole world what a country should be. United we stand in America, hand in hand in America. Together as one in a land that we love. United we stand in America.
Good morning, everyone out there. Welcome to Changing Times. It is Wednesday, January the 7th. This new year is moving on. This is show number 274. And I am Lynn Morris. And our guest today, he's been on there several times, is Alex Bryant, a good friend of mine. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Well, I tell you what, I'm excited to talk about some things today. Dr. Mary Byrne, you see that she's not here today. You know, where is she? And she's up in Jefferson City. She works with the Senate. First day of session today. I remember what that's like. The 8 years I served up there in Jefferson City. It's pretty exciting. It's all new, and everybody's trying to figure out how they're going to get their bills through two committees and how they're going to get them on the floor and all that kind of stuff. And Mary, with a PhD in education, and with all the things she's done in her life concerning education, she is the education consultant for the Senate in the state of Missouri, and gives them a lot of advice. And as the federal government starts to break down the federal Department of Education and they're trying to send it down to the states, where the states have more control, and hopefully we have more local control. You're on the school board at Nixus, so thank you for doing that. And I was on the school board at Ozark. And so we understand how the importance of schools, public education, and school boards are and stuff like that. So that's what Mary's doing. She's helping them get started with some education policies first of the year. But she'll be back. She'll be back. So I want to kind of start out by thinking this is the first of the year. And a lot of you all out there today probably, and maybe some of you still do, make New Year resolutions. I used to. But I'm kind of old now, and so I don't make as many New Year resolutions because I wasn't very good sometimes in keeping them. And so it gets discouraging after a while. But I want to talk about if you were going to make a New Year resolution, or you were going to do something new this year in 2026, I would suggest and hope, and I will pray that you, whoever you are out there, you and your friends and your family will seek out a church. I don't care what church you go to. I think it's important just to go to a church. There's lots of great churches out there. And God will figure that all out, but He'll help you. And you just need to go to a church. And I know a lot of us, I've read the Bible one time through, and I still have a lot of questions and don't understand everything. I would recommend that you try to read the Bible and read it through. And if you fail, then start again, because that's going to help you. You need to see the whole thing from the beginning to the end. You need to see it, okay? And some people have read it 2 times and 3 times. The more you read it, the more you will understand, and you will be a firm believer in Jesus Christ, okay? And then the last thing I want to tell you before we start our show today is, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, it's time. It's time. I have had friends in the last, and we all have, everybody out there has had this happen. I have had friends that I have talked to on one day, and the next day they're dead. They either have a car wreck. It's happened. And I've had car wrecks. It's happened. I've had people that I had a meeting with them, and the next day they're dead, and they had a heart attack. We don't know how long we have down here. Our time on our clock is not the same time as God's time. And so I'm urging you all, with all the things going on in this country and the signals and the signs that we're seeing about end times and all these catastrophes that are so much worse today than they've ever been in our lifetime, there's something going on. And so I would urge you to seek out someone who is a strong Christian and find out how you easily can become a member of Jesus Christ's group. You can do that, and it's so easy. And we had a pastor on just a couple of weeks ago. He's an old country pastor over in Bruner, Missouri, and he said the prayer and helped people I'm hoping. We care about everybody. We care about everybody, and this is something, I had one of my best friends that was a lawyer in Springfield, Missouri. He played tennis. We belonged out at Twin Oaks Country Club, a nice place. And every time I played against him, because he was very good, and we'd meet in the finals sometimes, but he was an atheist. And so I would talk to him before the match started, and I would talk to him and say, hey, have you changed your mind? Can I visit with you a little bit? And stuff like that. But do you know what? He died being an atheist.
Man.
And that's not good. That's not good. You read the Bible, see what's going to happen. Okay? All right. Good enough. I'm not going to preach anymore. but I just wanted, this is the start of the year.
Yeah.
The start of the year. We've got so much more time this year, but we don't know how much time you have. I don't know how much time I have. Okay? So please do that for yourself, your family, your friends. Do it. Okay? All right. So today, what we're going to talk about, what Alex and I are going to talk about today, and I want to first find out a little bit about you, but what we're going to do today, get a pencil and paper out. I think you may want to take some notes. This is just our opinions. I've done quite a bit of reading. I know Alex does he reads all the time. He writes books. He reads. I hope a lot of you read. Dr. Mary Byrne sent me an article in the New York Times a couple of days ago about one of these topics we're talking about. I've read Epoch Times. I've looked at different newspapers and journals and watched the news and like everybody else has, but you don't always get the truth when you're watching different things. So you have to be careful and kind of filter through what's true and what's not true, okay? Hopefully today we're going to tell you what we think is true because it's our own opinions and what we believe in and how we've been raised. But the first thing we're going to talk about but let's go ahead first though. Let's find out a little bit about you. I know people have seen you a couple weeks ago, but a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me once again, Lynn. I'm Pastor Alex Bryant. I am an Assemblies of God minister, have been for about 22, 23 years. And I came here to Springfield, Missouri in 1995 to Evangel University, played football there, graduated. My wife and I, we've been in ministry now for about 20 years, 22 years. And married. My wife and I have been married for 30 years. We have 5 kids and a daughter-in-law now. That's new since the last time I was here. So
I saw that.
My oldest boy got married, and we'll be getting another daughter-in-law later on this year in May. And so, we have Alex Bryant Ministries.
The family's growing.
The family is growing. Yeah, the family's growing. So one boy down and 4 boys, and then a little baby daughter. So she's 16.
Daughter.
Yeah, we got one daughter.
And she's a great athlete.
She's a good, she likes to play basketball. So we live in Nixa. So we have Alex Bryant Ministries, and we travel, we write, we speak, and we do media. And our whole goal is to reconcile people to God first, then ourselves, and then each other. And we do it through written, spoken, and media content. AlexBryant.org if you want to check me out.
Okay, very good. And you and your wife have a podcast.
Yep, we do a podcast. It's called The Way We See It. And you can get it anywhere you see podcasts. Our most recent episode that came out yesterday was all about Venezuela and the whole deal with Trump. And is it about narco drugs? Is it about oil? I answer some of those questions, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit today.
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about, our first topic. So thank you very much for being here today. Our first topic is Venezuela. What happened last Saturday?
Yeah. Man, people were surprised in the middle of the night.
I was surprised.
I was. I put out a video, and it said, I woke up in the middle of the night when I use, I'm that age now where I got to wake up and use the bathroom. I got to take a pee. And so I get this text thread or text alert from Fox News that said we had just dropped some bombs in Venezuela. So I was like, I'm too tired to see it now. The next morning we wake up and we find out that President Trump had authorized military force to go in and really basically snatch and grab Maduro. That's kind of the basic, thing. Maduro's had, he's obviously the dictator. Some would say he's the president of Venezuela. He not voted in by the fair and free elections, but he's been the dictator there for a few years, since about 2012 or 13, and
probably an illegal dictator. And the United States, we've had an indictment. We wanted to be able to bring him to justice. We had a bounty on his head that President Biden put on there. Trump raised the bounty. And so both parties have, for years now, since 2020, said, hey, we want this guy to come to justice. He's been selling illegal drugs to Americans. He's been racketeering. He's been smuggling across cocaine and fentanyl. The guy has seen millions, or not millions, but thousands of Americans die, and we wanted to bring him to justice. And so that's what that was all about. Well, actually, Alex, it's not millions of tons. You know what a ton is, and so it's not millions of tons. It's actually could be even billions of tons of cocaine back over into this country. We're going to have. I was telling Dennis, our producer, we're going to have in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to have FDA, the DEA, and BNDD here, and we're going to talk about all the different types of drugs. We're going to have I'm a pharmacist, so I'm going to chip in. We're going to have a kind of a refresher course about what is meth, what is fentanyl, what is cocaine, how's it derived, how's it coming into our country, how many people has it killed, how many lives has it impaired and changed and destroyed, and that is actually, a lot of people believe it's another way on the inside. Internally, our enemies are trying to destroy our country. If you can do all that stuff, it weakens us. I
remember hearing for the first time on when Vivek Ramaswamy was running, and he was the one that's like, this is terrorism. They are trying to kill our fighting age young men, and every year 100, 200,000 men that are fighting age. And we know that China, they have the precursor, and you know more about this stuff because you are the pharmacist, but they can't even put it together in China. It's illegal to manufacture and distribute China. It's punishable by death in China, fentanyl, so they ship it down to the cartels, and then they have this system to bring it across to us in the United States, and it's killing us. And unfortunately, when our borders were wide open, it was easy for them to do that. And so, people are throwing shade on President Trump about blowing these narco-terrorism boats out of the water. I think it's been about 40 boats, about 100 narco-terrorists killed, and he gave a statistic last week that said that drugs that are coming in, fentanyl and cocaine coming into the United States by sea is down 92%. Yeah, I applaud that. I applaud that. So.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. So one of the things I've noticed, exactly what you just said. To begin with, we were hearing that there was a boat hit about every 2 or 3 days. Yeah. It was destroyed, okay? But I haven't heard it for a while, and I thought, now, if they were still doing it, we would hear about it, because there's a side that doesn't want that, and they think it's illegal. And so, but no, that's not the case. You're exactly right. There's a lot of boats that aren't being sent out in the water now. Because
I would want to go if I'm like, knowing that our U.S. military can get you wherever you are.
No, that wouldn't be a pleasure boat ride. I had boats down at the Table Rock Lake, and we always had pleasure rides. Think about it, if I thought somebody was going to bomb me when I got to the middle of the lake.
Isn't that crazy too? Just like the might of our military, like literally these narco-terrorism boats that are speeding across the Caribbean, and coming to the United States, are just a bomb coming out. Can you imagine just watching that come? Oh no! And then boom, and hitting the precision, the targeting, the military intel don't mess with the United States. That's what I hear. That's what I get from that.
Well, and I think when we go back to the word you said about narco-terrorism, that's the word that Trump and his administration's using today. I'm not sure if I heard that in the past, narco-terrorism.
Yeah.
But it is. It's a form of terrorism, and it's what the enemies outside are using, and some of them are inside our government right now, and they're using to try to destroy and weaken our country. So I like that word, narco-terrorism. You're going to hear that in court.
Yeah.
You're going to hear that in court a lot. The other thing I want to say as we continue to talk about this is I just can't hardly imagine. When I woke up, I started watching this on Saturday morning, kind of unfold what they were telling us. And of course, they didn't tell us a lot to begin with, but it was amazing to me as Janet and I sat there and having our coffee and watching that how precise, how complicated that had to be with all the different. They had 3 or 4 different types of bombers.
Yeah.
They had helicopters. They had several types of helicopters. They had boats on the ocean. They had all kinds of stuff going on, and no one dead. Not one military person killed. They had a few wounded, but not very many. It was such a precision type thing, and they were aware. They were on alert. They knew. And then what I was amazed at some point during that day, President Trump had made a comment to the press. He's probably the first president. You may not like everything he says. In fact, he bothers me sometimes when he talks. I think he talks too much. And maybe he shouldn't talk quite as much. But one of the things I thought that was interesting was, I don't know how many people picked it up, but I want you to know that he called within 24 hours of what happened. He gave Maduro 2 chances.
Yeah.
He said, you need to give up. You need to surrender now. We can come and get you now. And he didn't do it.
No, he didn't.
He had opportunities up until the very end, and he didn't take his opportunity. One thing I thought was interesting, that day after I got kind of through watching the events going on and what had happened, then I was watching a football game that day. I'm sure you watch football on TV.
Yeah.
And I watched a basketball game on TV. And then I went back to Fox, and then I went to CNN.
I do too.
CNN's not my favorite station, but
You gotta watch it, though.
But I watch it some.
I do too.
And so, but here's perfect timing, because I went right from a basketball game to CNN, and they were getting ready to take a break, and the lady says, I don't know who she was, and she says, when we come back, we're going to talk about the illegal. I don't know what she called it, kidnapping of Maduro and his wife. And so I told Jan, I said, well, this will be interesting. So I'm sitting back in my recliner. And when they came back on, they said that they had captured them in their bedroom, and they had dragged him out of their bedroom with physical force. Now, before that, I'd seen him with handcuffs in the front, hands in the front, and there's military people in the front, military people in the back, and they were just walking out.
Yeah.
And they didn't catch him in their bedroom. They were they had gotten to a safe room.
Yeah.
But the big steel doors, either one report I heard said it was 12 inches thick, and one said 16 inches. So it was a thick wall of steel. I would imagine that'd be pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And so I think they were trying to close it when the military said, no,
Yeah.
you're not going to do it. And they surrendered peacefully, and they walked out. So that's a different story than what I heard on CNN. I'm not saying they're always wrong, but I'm just telling you that you need to pay attention, because you don't always hear and see the truth.
Well, CNN, obviously, they have an agenda, and they come with a narrative. And even the words that they use, the headlines that they use, we see this. Remember back in the the Summer of Love, the mostly peaceful protest with the fiery car, on fire in the background, and we find out that, about 8% of those weren't peaceful protests, about 500 protests were violent. So, see, they have their narrative, but and I have to watch it now. My wife doesn't watch CNN with me. As a matter of fact, I have to hide and watch CNN. She doesn't like it on when I'm.
She doesn't like to watch it either. My wife doesn't either, but she'd sat there that morning because, and that day we were just.
Yeah. It sounds like the operation went flawlessly, and Trump addressed a lot of things. And in fact, Trump, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, I saw their press conference, and it was right on. They were like, hey, listen, this is what we did. We planned. Our military, they corresponded with our Navy, our Air Force, and the Marines, and, the Special Force Delta. And, so all the different triangulations is to do it to perfection, obviously flawlessly, executed. They could have put a bullet in the guy's head. We saw this in other times. Other presidents have said, we're not bringing you back. We're going to shoot you. No, they didn't. They brought him back for trial.
Right.
It just amazes me that no matter how he does it or what he does, there's always going to be issues with what Trump did. The Democrats had a bounty on this guy's head. And, Trump and Marco Rubio were addressing that at the press conference. They're like, well, I guess we saved the American people $50 million because we don't have to pay out the bounty. We know he's a bad guy. And here's how I know that this was a good thing. I've been to Venezuela before. I as a pastor, we led a missions trip there. I think it was 2010. And we took, 50, 60 students with us, me and another pastor from our church. And we saw that. We saw the people. We were on the grounds. We pastored, or we were with a pastor who was a missionary there. And I experienced it. I saw what the people were talking about, that gas you can get. You can fill up your Isuzu Rodeo for $1 American, but peanut butter, you couldn't even get there. They wanted us to bring peanut butter in our suitcases and things. And you saw the oppression of the people. Right. When we were leaving, a lot of their young people were like, please, can we come back with you? Their college-age kids were like, can we please come back with you? As a matter of fact, two of the guys that I was there with corresponded with girls, and they end up coming back and marrying them. So I've talked to them. I know one of my pastor friends has a church with about 300 Venezuelans in it, and they are overwhelmingly thankful. They call this liberation.
Right.
This was not a coup. This was not Trump doing anything corrupt. They feel liberated. And you see this with the people. They are celebrating because many of them, and I've talked to some of them, they haven't been able to go back to Venezuela to see their family members, to bury their grandmother, to visit because of this oppressive regime of Maduro. So this is a good thing.
Well, and Alex, I tell you what, so was that about 2010 you said?
2010, yeah.
Well, think about it. This is 2026, so 15, 16 years has passed, and it's a lot worse today from what I understand.
Yeah.
The people are just really having more and more trouble. Same way over at Iran.
Yeah.
The countries are socialism, good test in New York. I think a lot of young people, and a lot of young people are great people in our country and great citizens. But unfortunately, sometimes because of our school systems, we have some young people who felt like that socialism was the government of choice. That's to me going to be a big test.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big test in our country. I think New York is going to fail. I think I just don't see how Madami's going to be able to do what he says he's going to do.
Yeah, no.
You can't tax people. The people who have the money, they've already moved. A lot of people have moved out of New York. They're going to continue to leave, and then you won't have anybody to tax. And there's no way you can provide all that stuff. And when Jan and I went to Cuba on government business, a few of us reps and senators went over there. They had those grocery stores. But we went into one of the grocery stores. They don't have very good selection, and stuff like that. And so you get to eat whatever that is inside there. But somebody's got to pay for that. 'Cause see, it's free for you, but how did you get it?
Somebody's paying for it.
The government took money from somebody to provide that. So nothing's free.
Yeah.
But these young kids, they thought they said the majority of the people who voted for Madami was young.
You
It
know,
wasn't older folks like me.
yeah, the thing is with our young people, they don't understand, they don't even care or know what socialism is, what communism is. They don't understand those concepts. So what they hear is somebody that's able to wax eloquent, because Madami, the dude's a smooth talker,
Oh, he is.
good looking guy, smile, and and young people now, their worldview is that the world is not fair.
Yeah.
And that the government and that the powers that be, the rich people, are the bad people, and they need to make it right for us.
Yeah.
And so that's their worldview. So they obviously want to follow a young a person that's smooth talking.
The government's going to take care of you.
The government's going to take care of you, and they got to. So the young people, I get and I understand why they do what they do, but where my issue is, what about the people my age and stuff that know and understand? When you look at this stuff, when you look at around the world, socialism's not going to work. And I addressed this on the podcast I just put out yesterday. When you go and you look at it, it's like what's happening in Venezuela. They had such great natural resources of oil, the largest oil reserve in the world. They say 8 million tons of gold that's just still in the ground there. I mean, they got a lot of natural resources. So you had somebody like Hugo Chavez that went there in 1990s, who, if you think about the connection between Hugo Chavez, his mentor was in Cuba, Castro over there.
Right.
And so he goes and takes over this democratic country that was Venezuela and promises all these things. He had to lie to some of them and promise some things. When they found out it wasn't true what he was saying, now you have to use force to enforce what you're saying. That's what's going to happen in New York City. Mom and Donnie's making all these claims to people. You got his new housing director lady saying, we have to reimagine what property ownership is like. What is that? Stop and think about what that means.
Right,
We're going to take your home. And then they try to use racism. They say for you older white people, yeah, you guys, I'm a homeowner. I have been for about 2 or 3 decades.
Right.
I don't rent a property. I don't want them taking my property, and I don't want to be called, I'm not a white supremacist. It's absolutely ridiculous, and we have to think about these things, and we have to use our influence to influence the young people to see and understand. And I feel bad for New York. I hope it doesn't completely fall and fail, but it's on the way.
Well, one of the things that I want the listeners to always beware, there's an old saying about buyer beware, and some things sound so good, they look so good, and so you go, man, I'm gonna join that, I'm gonna do that. Well, you got to beware, because some things are just, if they sound too good, they may not be so good, and you better be watching out. So in our country, I think we're seeing some what I'd call experiments right now.
Yeah.
Our form of government has been the steadiest and the best in the world since we're going to be celebrating 250 years come this July, and we have flaws, we have weaknesses. In fact, some of the things, we have a great Constitution, a great Bill of Rights, we have lots of great things, but sometimes people capitalize on some of that, because that way they get freedom of speech, and it's against us. They use our good stuff and they use it against us.
Yeah.
But we're going to be okay. But
I just want to say this to that point, Lynn. It's my hope and my goal that we wake up and that we start to see the big picture. And again, Trump doesn't make all the right moves, and he can be a knucklehead sometimes, But when you stop and think about this, and think about what he just did and why he just did it, this is going to be one of the first times. And I heard Glenn Beck mentioning some of this. This is going to be one of the first times in literally my lifetime. I'm 50 years old, that the United States is going to be able to control the natural resources in our hemisphere. I mean, because you talk about, when you go back and you look at the oil that Venezuela had, we haven't controlled them. I mean, we didn't even know about, controlling them. I mean, until you had Cuba, Chavez, and Hugo, and then now Maduro down in there in Venezuela. The natural resources in that hemisphere. Canada's been their own thing. They got oil and natural gas. The United States, we've kind of had our own, but we've had kind of one of these we were after World War II. We were over in Europe. We're trying to help over there. We've been, and since the 90s, we've been in the Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, and we haven't paid attention to what's happening in our own hemisphere. But you know who is? China, Russia, Iran, Cuba. They're forming the new axis of evil. And they came in when, this whole thing with Venezuela, where China came in and swooped in, is when the United States was in Iraq, when we were worried about the war over there, Russia's like, oh, we'll slide in here to Venezuela and get a little foothold here. Yeah. Trump sees this stuff and he notices this stuff. And then when you start to think about, and I don't know how much you want me to go into, but when you talk about the BRIC nations, these nations that are trying to displace the dollar as the world's currency, which has been in place since after World War II, Trump is seeing these things and he's saying, guys, this is big picture stuff. And I like that we have a president who he may not he might not say all the right stuff, and he's a little bit arrogant, rude, harsh, whatever. But I like that he and his team are thinking about these things, and we have to have a strong America for sure in our region. I'm not one that wants us to police the world, but I want us to make sure that our region, the people that are closest to us, that could do the most damage to us and the harm to us, I want us to make sure that we're safe. That's what I like.
Yeah, and one more thing, and we'll kind of get to the next topic pretty quick here. But one of the things I'm going to be interested in, I think a lot of people are, is China gets almost all their oil from Venezuela. And now I don't think they probably gotten any oil since last Saturday.
They right now are fighting over.
And they're trying to figure this out.
Yeah, China and Russia.
Right. And so I think that's important because, when I may be wrong, but I'm thinking that out of all the countries that you just mentioned about Cuba, Russia, China, Iran, those four countries seem to be the ones that hate us the most and would love to take over this country. I think China maybe is still our number one threat. To me, they've got the most people. Even though their economy is suffering, and it's going to suffer. I don't know what they're going to do without this oil, so I don't know where they're going to get it. But it'll be interesting to see how that all that plays out.
The race is going to be for who controls and who leads in artificial intelligence. Because as quick as we can process AI, and AI scares me. I'm not going to lie to you. I've said this before. I've seen too many movies with AI taking over and the machines, and they try to take us down. But it's here, and we can't stop that. And when you look at when the brilliant minds like Elon Musk and all those guys were coming together, they didn't care what country you're from when they were trying to invent this technology. Well, the technology's been invented, and now the companies are starting to form. How can we monetize this? And you remember a couple of years ago, Elon Musk is like, we need to pump the brakes on this. What are the ethical ramifications of artificial intelligence? But China's not trying to pump the brakes. They're going, we just want to. It's like when the first to the moon. Russia's just like, we want to be the first ones there. Well, China wants to be the first to the AI because of they want to control the technology. They want to have the market, the companies, the investment. And so in order to have AI, artificial intelligence, you have to have power. That's why when we were trying to go solar and and all this wind energy over here, China's going, oh yeah, you guys keep doing that because they're investing in oil and coal. Now, obviously, coal doesn't have enough power to produce AI, so now you got to have nuclear and you got to have oil. Right. Trump sees this stuff and he knows it. We have to deregulate. We have to own and control and be the leader in artificial intelligence because then we can set the standard for the world. And it's something with that powerful. And, artificial intelligence is like the new technology that's coming on. This is what I say to all my friends. Who do you want to control this stuff? The United States, which we're not saying that we're perfect, but we are a democracy and we do good, or countries that can't stand us, that are evil and wicked, like China, Russia, Iran. We have to be the ones that control this. That's why it's so important for what's happening right now.
I'm glad you mentioned AI because Two real quick points. One is that I'm going to have, because I want to learn more myself and I want everybody that's watching to learn, I'm going to have guests. We're going to have a couple of AI experts on in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And so watch for that, because that is something, you're exactly right. It's critical at this point.
Yeah.
We don't want another country like China to be ahead of us in that. We want to be number one in AI intelligence. It's not that I trust everything about it, like
I
you
don't
said.
either.
I'm a little bit skeptical.
I am too.
But I think that there's some really positive things that we can do. So we just got to make sure we have controls. And the other thing I was going to say real quick, and I think I mentioned it last week, maybe I did, but we had a great show, and we had a young man, 19 years old, Brett, with Turning Point. We had Brett on our show, Brett Russell, and had Dr. Mary Byrne. I call her my middle-aged person, and then I'm the old guy. And so we had the best things that happened in 2025, the worst things that happened in 2025, and then we predicted what we would like to see in 2026. And it was interesting because Brett went first, and then Mary went second, and I went third. And our perspectives are a little bit different because you're talking about different age groups. You know, young people think differently than somebody in their 70s and somebody in their 50s and things like that. So it was really interesting as we kept bouncing off. Every once in a while, we had one of the same ones, but not always in the same order. So that was good. And you know how I got them? Because I had meetings on Monday night and meetings on Tuesday night. I didn't have any time to prepare for this show. And so just before I went to bed, I asked AI, I've never done this before. I asked AI what the top 5 items were, and that was the best and then the worst. And they just printed it all out for me.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, and that's what I went with.
Yeah.
And I've never done that before. You've always had to depend on my little brain to tell you something.
The younger people know and understand, and like they are all excited about it. They're going, yeah. We, as we get a little bit older, we kind of go, well, hold on a second, because you just said it. You're like, hey, I forget this phrase, but hey, not everything that seems that appears good is good.
Yeah, that's right.
And you look at someone like an Elon Musk, who's like, hey, I want to go to the Mars,
Yeah.
and he knew that AI was going to be the thing that helps get him there. Even he had the wherewithal to say, we need to pump the brakes on this a little bit.
Yeah.
We need to stop and think about the ramifications, and we need some governance over it, because this thing could go further and take it. And I mean, remember the movie with Matthew Broderick, Global Thermonuclear War, the War Games? That's the thing that made me go, whoa, I don't want to see these machines go. But the reality is, for me, I'm a middle-aged guy, and older people, it's here. It's coming.
Yeah.
So we have to be the ones that control it.
Maybe you need kind of like bumper guards or rails, because otherwise it'll go crazy and you'll go off the road and we'll have a problem in this country. And we don't need more problems. We just want good things to happen in our country. Okay, well, we're going to run out of time, but just real quickly, let's just talk a little bit about, I've always been concerned about fraud, illegal activities, crime, things like that. We have a lot of that in this country. We have it all over the world. And it's not just, and I'm not picking on any one party, okay? It happens in both political parties. It also happens in people that aren't politically have a party. They could be independent people. It could be business people. It could be a regular citizen that commits fraud or commits some type of crime. But the big news right now just happens to be over in Minnesota. And what do you think about what's going on over in Minnesota about fraud that's happening, that's actually turning into billions of dollars? And what do you think about that?
Yeah, so the latest figure that I've heard was about $9 billion worth of fraud that they have discovered. This young independent, he calls himself an independent journalist. He's a YouTuber, Nick Shirley.
Yeah.
Basically,
interesting guy.
He's an interesting young man, 23 years old,
Yeah.
and took a video camera and went over there because he saw some of the fraud with the daycare centers, and it turned. And well, actually it was exposed before that. I think when they saw that some of these the COVID funds were being misused, and
That's probably when it
really
started worse.
I remember when I was on the radio, I was talking about this about a year or two ago. that they were starting to indict and convict people in Minnesota for welfare fraud and for COVID fraud. And so to date now, the last time I checked last week, I think 95 people have been convicted, and some of them are serving time in prison for COVID money fraud. And it just so happens that 89 of the 95 are Somalis. So that's made people start to look and go, wait, what's going on here? You know, these people that came to our country after the Black Hawk Down incident, that's how I remember when Bill Clinton went over there in Somalia and, you know, we had the Black Hawk helicopter down because they were trying to do stuff. Well, to show that people that, you know, because he felt bad for it, so he started to let them come into our country. And a lot of them are resettled up in Minnesota. I've done ministry up there in Minneapolis. You go in there, you see the Somali influence all around you. Well, so these people have been frauding us. A lot of them have. Now, again, not all Somalian people are frauds, but it just so happens that 89 of the 95 that have been convicted right now of stealing about $9 billion of taxpayer money happen to be Somali. That's not good. And so it frustrates me.
Sure. And you know what? All over the country, people have just paid their taxes. In most states in this country, you pay your taxes at the end of the year. That's your state taxes, your local taxes, city taxes, things like that. Now, in April, we're going to have another little fun time of paying our federal taxes. Yeah. And so people don't like taxes. And I purposely set down, my office is on the second floor of the courthouse in Ozark, Christian County, and in Missouri. And I have set down on the first floor in the commission office where we have our meetings, and wanted to visit with people that come out of the collector's office right across the hall. And people say, why do you want to do that? Because they're always mad and they're complaining and cussing. They do. But I want to listen because I don't like taxes either, but they are necessary. Taxes, I believe, have become a financial burden for all age groups, not just for older people like me, for young people just getting started, for middle-aged people, and for old people like me. They're a problem. However, I like to listen to them where I can understand and explain to them how much the county government gets, which is not very much on their tax statement. But I want you to understand how much money billions are. And it's $9 billion that they pretty well know about, but they're looking at $18 billion worth of claims in Minnesota. And they also think it could have spread to another 6 to 12 states. But now let's talk about how much a billion is. For me and Alex and Dennis and a lot of you out there, let's talk about $10, that's 10. Let's talk about $100. We've had $100 bills, at times. And so there's 2 zeros. $1,000, we don't have a $1,000 bill. There might be a few people that have a $1,000 bill, but I have $1,000 in my savings accounts and thousands, and stuff like that. So we know what 3 zeros are. But let's talk about $1 million. $1 million is 6 zeros. How about $1 billion? Add 3 more zeros. Boy, you start putting a whole bunch of zeros. How about trillion? Add 3 more zeros. Keep adding zeros. And the zeros go off the page. That's how much money. It's hard to believe and understand how much money taxpayer fraud is hurting us.
I put this into perspective. So we originally thought that this was just Minnesota taxes, whatever. No, it's federal. That means our money is going.
Yeah, and Missouri money.
Now, the average person, who has a job, you're going to be paying taxes every paycheck. They take it out, FICA. They get some of your federal income tax. And so the average person, if you don't know this, you're a middle-class person. That would be me. I don't know what your status is. You pay about between $6,000 and $9,000 a year. To federal income taxes. That's not the state. That's not all that other stuff. $6,000 to $9,000. So let's just say it's $7,500 that the average person pays. If you talk about $1 billion worth of fraud, that means it took 133,333 of us to cover that $1 billion worth of fraud.
Yeah, and see,
that's all of Springfield pretty much. And then when you talk about $9 billion, so multiply that. So that means it took like 1.2, 1.3 million of us to cover the fraud that happened in Minnesota.
Well, so I would tell you, Alex, I would tell the people that's watching our show today, it's a breakdown of our federal government. I don't care who's in charge. Whoever's in charge is responsible for safeguarding the money that we give them. We gave them money
that they take from us.
And they take from us. If you can get in trouble if you don't pay your taxes, and they should be protecting that valuable money that we gave them and spending it wisely. And I'm praying and hoping and that all these people that's doing things wrong, they need to be prosecuted and they need to pay the penalty. But we need to enforce and tell our government, everybody that we've elected in each state has got to do a better job in taking care of our money.
You know, we all saw this coming, though, when they were just divvying out COVID funds left and right.
That was a problem.
Everybody knew it was going to happen.
There was no controls. There was no controls.
You could apply, and you said it. It happens on both sides. I mean, down in Mississippi, you got Ted DiBiase's son, who's supposedly Republican. He's up for stealing $70 million or something like that. It happens in California, all over. When you have that much, it's like Oprah. You get $1 million, you get $1 million, and this is our taxpayer dollars. And when you stop to think about it again, if the average taxpayer is paying $7,500 per year to the federal government, that's 133,000 of us that are covering this $1 billion. It's ridiculous, and it's our money, and there needs to be accountability, not just, oh yeah, we're sorry. In this particular case, it's Governor Walz, who literally, this guy was running for vice president. He was a heartbeat away from being the president.
He could have been.
He bragged about this stuff on the campaign trail.
He said he had a good program.
Had a good program. In Minnesota, you should come to Minnesota. And, Minnesota people are nice there, but how nice are they to have this money stolen? This is ridiculous, and it's frustrating. I see people, and I'm on X and and Instagram, and I see a movement of young people that are saying, I'm not paying my taxes. And I hate that for them because they're going to get in trouble with the government for that. But I understand the sentiment, but you can't do that. If anybody's listening, please keep it's frustrating, but you have to pay your taxes. You don't want to go to jail or be, have your wages garnished or anything, but it is frustrating, and we need accountability.
Right. Well, you and I talked on the phone about inside trading on stock markets. A lot of the elected officials, whether they be a congressman or a senator, somehow, I know they get paid quite a bit of money, but they don't get paid that much. And all of a sudden, they weren't a millionaire when they got into politics. But it didn't take them very many years, and they're hundreds of millions of dollars in their portfolio. And I'm just thinking, okay, and you look at, they own a lot of stock all of a sudden, and they always seem to be making the right moves and stuff like that. But that's another topic, another day. But I'm pleading with all the Americans, hold your elected officials accountable. Watch them and tell them how important it is. I don't care what party, every party is responsible, and you tell them that they have got to do a better job, okay? And then we got to hope that the judges make the right decisions. So we got a system in this country where we have liberal judges and conservative judges, and I just would like a judge. I don't care. I want a judge in the middle that always makes the right decision that is good for our country. Good for our country.
I'm going to tell you this, Congressman Mark Alford, some of your audiences, he's in 4th District up near the Kansas City area. I spoke with him a couple weeks ago, and he is helping sponsor the Pelosi Act.
Okay.
And now what that is when you're in office, congressmen and senators, you can't trade stocks, because when you look at Nancy Pelosi, she has become a multi-millionaire.
She made a lot of money on stocks.
I mean, they say that I think it was like 2012% return on her investment.
I should have had her as my advisor.
Seriously.
Honestly. The guy down in Ozark, I should have traded him in for Pelosi.
And then when you look at even Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman from Minnesota, she came here 15, 20 years ago. As a Somali refugee, her net worth when she went into office, they say was in maybe $10, $20, $30,000.
And one financial statement had a negative 35,000.
And then now you're hearing that she's worth anywhere from, I hear, anywhere from $9 million to $30 million is what they have her net worth at right now. Yeah. How? She's only been in Congress for 6 years. How is she worth?
Well, if you took her salary, and I don't know, it's 175,000 and multiplies 6, it don't even hit $1 million.
So how is she worth $9 million to $30 million?
Yeah, so that's another topic someday.
The Pelosi Act.
Pelosi Act. That's good, because that's kind of what I was talking about. That Americans, all Americans, hardworking people, we deserve to be treated better, and it's still everything that frustrates me, but we're still the best country in the world.
We are.
I mean, I don't want to go live someplace else.
No.
And I'm proud of our country, and I am patriotic, and I want people to be more patriotic. We're going to work on that this year too, because this country needs to respect our leadership and to be more patriotic, and to respect the military and respect our veterans, and know where we came from. And stuff like that. Okay, well, I'm going to still give you the last word, but I want to talk about our two sponsors. We're going to run out of time. Brad Pistow is a certified fiduciary financial planner located in Ozark, Missouri. He is one of the best, not just in the state of Missouri, but one of the best in the entire country. He's written a couple books. They're both best-selling, #1 books on Amazon on retirement planning. The first one is Safe Money Matters. The second one is Bulletproof. This is why you need a pencil and paper, unless you go back and watch our show again. The phone number to get those books, he'll give you books, he'll give you information, everything. If you talk to him, it's always free. There's no charge. And the phone number is 417-581-9292. 417-581-9292. Okay? And this guy, I've used him for several years. He's done two things for me. He has financially put Janet and I into a position where we will never, ever run out of money before we run out of our life. Okay, a lot of people worry about that. Inflation and everything that's going on as we get older, we got more medical expenses, a lot of different things that aren't so good. And he can help you. And not only does he help you with retirement planning, he and his son also can help you with all types of investments, stocks, and all other investments that you can do, securities and bonds and different things. And so we invest still, and we have our money in retirement, and so we've done very well with him. And everyone I've recommended, I just talked to another gentleman down there. He's in his mid-40s, and he has started with him. That's a good age. It's never too early to start. And he's really happy so far with what he's getting out of what he had been recommended. So highly recommend Brad Pistow, Certified Fiduciary Financial Planner. Okay, the second sponsor is Springfield Nissan, Springfield Kia. It used to be Youngblood Motor Group in Springfield, Missouri. And I bought my last 2 Grand Cherokee Jeeps from these guys. And I don't buy brand new cars. I buy one with 4,800 miles and 7,000 miles, and I get them a little bit less price than a new car. And these guys can find those for you. I just bought a car from them on Labor Day this past year, and it was a Kia Sorento SUV, beautiful car, half the price of a Jeep. And I actually like it better than my Jeep. So I can't believe it. I didn't know that was going to happen. But they gave me a great deal, 0% financing, great trade-in, everything. They have perfect service. They have really, really good service. And they have used cars on one side of South Campbell. They have new cars on the other side of South Campbell. And their phone number is 417-882-3838. 417-882-3838. Susan's going to answer what to do and get you to the right person. But I'm telling you, right now, these two guys, they sell cars from 8 different states. People come to see them. They've been in business almost 50 years, family owned, one of the oldest car dealers in the state of Missouri, and I highly recommend them. But okay, well, next week we're going to have a program that I'm excited about. I'm on the Missouri Extension Council at MU, Missouri University, and we have a gentleman from the Republic area in southwest Missouri that's going to come on. We're going to talk about the Good Neighbor program. Long time ago, Alex, back when my folks were alive and even my grandparents, we didn't have all these nonprofits. We had neighbors. Neighbors took care of neighbors. There wasn't other groups that helped people. It was the neighbors. And what we're doing in Christian County, what Greene County is doing in other counties, is just now starting. It's 4 years old, but Christian County participated for the first time last year. We're going to do it every month this year. And what it is promoting and finding people that are doing good deeds for other people. And that's how we took care of everybody back then. And we need to do more of it today. So we're going to highlight and promote and publicize the people that's doing great things. And I think it's going to spread. We're going to make it, because the churches do it somewhat and the nonprofits do it somewhat, but nobody could do it better than the man or woman who lives right next door to an elderly person or even a young person that needs help. So I'm going to be telling you, this guy is going to be exciting to listen next week. And we appreciate you being tuned in this whole time. And Alex, thank you very much. One last word. You have anything you want to say?
Yeah,
to
man.
people?
Pay attention. Know what's going on. I loved how you started the show, reading the Word, going to church, and making God the center. I mean, that's going to be the key. If you're looking for wisdom on how to know how to navigate this stuff, you got to have the wisdom of Christ. And so I love that. And so, yeah, thanks for having me here.
All right, thank you. You're perfect. All right, we'll see you next week. God bless you guys. Have a great rest of the week.